It takes just a few seconds to fill this glass with water, but this water takes much longer to travel all the way from the source to the tap. So where does water come from in Moscow homes? How is it cleaned? And is it safe to drink from the tap? Today we'll try and answer some of these questions. The theme of our program is the water of Moscow. In today's episode, is it safe to drink tap water in Moscow? Where does the Muscovites' tap water come from? What connects the Moskva River and the Volga? Today, each resident of Russia's capital uses up to 130 litres of water a day on average. Providing high-quality drinking water for the city's 15 million people is a 12,000-kilometre long water supply network. However, before water enters the pipes, it makes a long and complex journey. This journey begins in rivers and other reservoirs. 99% of water in Moscow comes from surface sources. The Moscow water supply system consists of three parts: the Muscovites and the Volga water sources, and the Vazuz hydraulic system, which is mainly used in dry years. The Muscovites water source gets water from the Moskva River and from several other reservoirs. The Volga water comes from the Volga River, which is pumped via the Moscow Canal. The length of the Moscow Canal is 128 kilometers. We are currently located on one of its sections, sluice number 3, which is near the city of Yakrom. There are a total of 5 such sluices, each equipped with powerful pumping stations. Water from the Volga passes through these stations on its way to the Moscow River, providing the Russian capital with a source of water. The Moscow Canal was built in 1937. In 2019 alone, it supplied more than 300 billion cubic meters of Volga water to the Russian capital. Since the launch of this unique hydraulic engineering facility, the total volume of supplied water has exceeded 24,900 billion cubic meters. Thanks to the Moscow Canal, Russia's main city managed to escape a serious environmental and technological disaster. At the end of the 1920s, the Moskva River had become so shallow that it was possible to wade across it near the Kremlin. The city had a shortage of both technical and drinking water.
Long ago, during the time of Peter the Great, the authorities faced the issue of how to supply water to Moscow to ensure the development of the city. In 1932, they began to implement the plan. After 5 years, this grandiose facility was built. Volga water could then be brought to the capital. Factories from throughout Russia were involved in the construction of the canal. The whole country took part in its construction in those days. This took place during the second 5-year plan. During the construction of the canal, the dump truck as well as excavators were invented here.
The main task facing engineers during the construction of the canal was transporting the Volga water uphill by almost 40 meters. As Moscow stands on high ground, water could not get there by itself.
The Volga River is at a level which is lower than Moscow and the Moscow River. In order to supply water to Moscow, a system of water-raising pump stations was invented. Each pumping station raises the water by about 8 meters. The highest point of the Moscow Canal in this area is Ikshinskaya Reservoir, which is a storage of fresh Volga water. The water then flows further to Moscow by gravity.
Thus, the canal makes the Moskva River wide and deep. It also connects the Russian capital with other cities. Today, by water, you can get from Moscow to St. Petersburg, to Nizhny Novgorod or Astrakhan, and many other Russian cities. You can see the ship named after Bulgakov. It goes from Tver to Moscow. It has just passed the 4th lock. It is a very large cruise ship. Also, the Moskva Canal is an important transport artery of the city. More than 25 million tons of cargo are transported on it every year. You can't just drink water from the river, of course. It should be properly cleaned. This is done by Moskva Canal, the largest enterprise in the Russian water sector. In order to see all the stages of water treatment, we will go to the Lubrovska water treatment plant. However, I can't go inside. This is a high security facility and very important for this city, so it's off limits for visitors. But they made an exception for our cameraman. He will film inside and I will explain it all in a voiceover. The Rublovska water treatment plant is one of 4 modern complexes for the purification and supply of drinking water to the city. It supplies water to 26 districts. These districts are in the west, northwest and center of Moscow. Several rural settlements in the Moscow regions are also included. Water gets there from 4 reservoirs. Here it goes through complex cleaning processes. Only after this is it then fed through to the water supply network. The journey from the initial water intake to the tap in the apartment takes 8 to 12 hours. It begins here at the pumping station, where powerful pumps initially lift water from the Moskva River.
Here at the pumping station of the first lift, water goes through the initial purification process. Water falls through the 4-centimeter wide gaps in the grates and enters the dock chambers. The dock chambers are equipped with conical mesh fish screens. Going through the conical fish barriers, water enters the pumps, and fish and juvenile fish go downstream through the fish pipeline. This is how we solve environmental issues.
The employees of the station regularly monitor the state of the water in the river. Their goal is to prevent any harmful chemical substances that can be found in water from entering the city water supply network.
Upon any indication that an oil product is in the river, we install floating containment booms. This allows for the pumps to collect any oil found on the surface layers. We have an oil sorbent. By scattering it on the surface of the river, we can absorb oil products.
Following the initial intake from the river, water then goes through several reservoirs of the Rublovska water treatment plant. This process takes from 5 to 7 hours. The requirements for water are very stringent. It must meet all sanitary and consumer standards. In the laboratory, water samples are examined manually and also with the help of special equipment. For example, here an employee is checking the chlorine levels in drinking water. This is one of the most important indicators. Chlorine kills microorganisms that are dangerous to human health. However, its concentration should not exceed the permissible limit.
Our laboratory carries out a wide range of tests. We examine physical, chemical, microbiological, hydrobiological, and organoleptic indicators. There's a total of 186 indicators that we monitor. All of them are important. We check their compliance with the requirements set forth in the sanitary regulations. We take the first samples from the initial water source. We have a service called the Sanitary Protection Zone. 24 hours in advance, we can forecast the quality of the water that will come to our station that day.
Several years ago, the station was fully upgraded. We've now got a new water purification facility called ozone sorption. Now drinking water is purified with carbon and ozone. There are special ozone generators installed here. They synthesize ozone from the surrounding air by an electrical discharge. The water that goes through the ozonation process is left with no organic impurities. Moreover, this water tastes good and it is crystal clear and without any odor.
There are several key specifications that are monitored: water turbidity and color, the presence of organic substances, and water permanganate index. Water taste and color are very important. First and foremost, the consumer pays attention to water's organoleptic properties. This is where we focus our attention, and is also why new water treatment facilities have been built.
Although water supplied to Moscow today meets high-quality standards, many residents of the capital buy bottled drinking water by force of habit. Many households own built-in water purification filters. However, according to Moskva canal experts, their effectiveness remains dubious.
At the water treatment station, we monitor water content. We know what flora and bacteria it contains. But we don't know what is happening in our household water filters and what microflora may live there. What if this filter pollutes the water and launches the reverse process? Water should be tested. Water quality should be monitored every day. But you can't do this at home, can you? This is why I think there's no point in built-in water filters. Tap water is safe to drink.
Today, each resident of Moscow uses up to 130 litres of water per day on average. But that was not always the case. In the second half of the 18th century, the price of one bucket of water could reach 50 kopecks, while the average salary was 5 kopecks per day. Thus, in order to earn enough for one bucket of Moscow water, you had to work 10 days. The situation changed following the construction of the first Moscow water supply system.
The first water was supplied to Moscow at the very beginning of the 19th century. It came from the natural springs near Большие Мытищи village. Even during Peter the Great's reign, there was no water supply system. The population of the city was, however, already 300,000 people. In 1804, a water supply system began providing the city with the first spring water. Later, the water supply system went through several upgrades. According to various sources, by the end of the 19th century, the population of the city stood at 1.2 to 1.3 million people. Obviously, thousands of buckets of water coming to the city were not enough.
Since ancient times, people have preferred to settle near the water. The largest cities near the water are commonplace on the world map. For example, the Belgian city Ghent is situated at the junction of two rivers, Lys and Scheldt. The winding watercourse has been used as a transport artery for a long time. Now, the citizens get to the city centre by boat along the canals like they do on a highway by car. In London, the capital of the UK, the river public transport is well developed. There's water transport from one end of the city to the other, with 22 stops in between. Moscow's river network amounts to more than 1,000 watercourses. These comprise of streams, springs and rivers. The largest ones are Setun, Yauza and Iglinka. And of course the Moskva River, the largest and the most famous one. Within the city limits, its length is about 80 kilometers. Not only is the Moskva the main source of fresh water for the city, it is also an important transport artery. However, regular passenger traffic on the Moskva River is still in planning. Today, over 60 of the available ships in the city are tourist boats.
This is a promising area for development today. A new national project aimed at promoting both cruise tourism and river tourism has even been discussed. This project was widely debated. The emphasis was made on developing river tourism, which is boat tours along the city's rivers. This is very important. The city is evolving. The infrastructure is growing. The rivers are developing too. Looking at today's Moscow, we see that its piers and adjacent areas are well developed. All of the parks near the piers are growing. New spaces are appearing. It is obvious that the river needs further development. Historically, rivers have always been points of attraction, both for the residents and for the guests in any city. Sometimes I'm asked about my attitude toward competitors. My attitude is very positive, because together we can boost the interest in the river. The bigger the interest in the river, the more exciting the products will be, and the more people will visit.
Every year, river navigation on the Moskva River begins in early April. It lasts until mid-November. Dozens of different ships sail along the river, from small river trams to spacious ships. This spring, the diversity of Moscow's river transport could be fully appreciated during the annual ship parade. It was timed for the opening of the navigation season. Some 40 different ships participated in the parade, from the Muscovite steamship built in the 1950s to the modern yachts of the Radisson Royal Flotilla. Muscovites refer to them as river convertibles due to their unusual look and telescopic roof. You can take a ferry ride all year round in any weather. These pleasure yachts are also icebreakers and were designed and built specially for Moscow by a Turkish company.
This dream was born a long time ago. It was the dream of the owner of our company, who wanted to have his own fleet of yachts. When the Ukraine Hotel was under reconstruction, it acquired the Radisson brand, and finally the dream came true. Back then, the Ukraine Hotel had 5 new super yachts. River rides could then be offered in the morning, the afternoon, or the evening. You could combine your river cruise with breakfast, lunch, or dinner. This project then evolved further. It was no longer only associated with the hotel or one of its restaurants. It became one of the city's standalone landmarks. Today, all guests coming to Moscow from other cities and countries know about the Radisson yachts. In order to get a full picture of our city, taking a pleasure boat ride is a must.
Your yachts are very different from the others, the river trams. I've heard that they're even called convertibles.
Yes. Last year, a journalist, one of your colleagues, set this trend. This is a new concept and one of the branches of the Radisson flotilla. As a result of this journalist's successful initiative, our river trams are now called convertibles because they have a telescopic roof. It is fully retractable. This gives people an impression of being immersed in the river and nature and feeling at one with them. This is due to the fact that there are no windows, glass, or other barriers. There are, of course, fences for safety reasons, but the yacht has no roof or windows. Of course, this makes for an incredible feeling.
The most spacious Radisson yachts can fit 250 passengers. In 2019 alone, they carried more than 600,000 people. Some 40% of them were foreign tourists.
These are our river trams. All of them are equipped with audio guides in 6 languages because their main purpose is to offer guided tours. All other yachts are designed for pleasure. They have a full-fledged restaurant, live music, sofas. They offer varying levels of classes and comfort to the passengers spending time on the river. We emphasize that these yachts are a new way of spending your leisure time on the river. We do our best to show that the river is a point of attraction in the city, just as it was a long time ago, at the very beginning. We try to make river cruises an integral part of the events that take place in the city. Last year, we launched a new project of river trams for those who simply want to take a glance at the city, for those wanting to move from one tourist attraction to another with more comfort and mobility, and without traffic jams. There are many piers for our river trams. They have one common route that covers about 6 to 8 piers. At some piers, the trams make a second stop on the way back. Of course, all of them stop near the main landmarks in the historical center of the city.
Today we'll pass by the big attractions of the Russian capital, the Moscow Kremlin, the Cathedral of Christ the Saviour, Lomonosov Moscow State University, and Zaryadka Park. Many of these places are already familiar to us as we have visited them in our previous programs. But today we're going to see them from an unusual angle, from the Moscow River. And here is our river cabriolet. The duration and cost of the tours along the Moskva depend on the tourist program and the type of the boat. The most cost-effective option is a 2-hour-long boat tour that costs 400 Russian rubles per person. Today, many tourist operators offer individual programs with a personal guide who speaks foreign languages. Alex, hi.
Hello, nice to meet you, Mike.
Good to meet you.
How are you this morning?
Very well, and looking forward to our excursion.
Well, I'm your personal local guide, and today we're going to explore beautiful Moscow from this unusual angle of a boat.
Great.
So I invite you to the observation deck. What language would you prefer?
I'm a big fan of the Russian language, so let's do it in Russian.
Great, let's switch to the language of Pushkin and Dostoevsky.
Alexei works at a tourist agency that specializes in tours for foreign guests. This company develops programs for tourists from Germany, Italy, China, Japan, and other countries. Could you please tell me what foreign tourists like most of all?
Foreign tourists like Moscow's main landmarks. Everybody wants to visit Red Square to take pictures against the backdrop of St. Basil's Cathedral. Everybody who has enough time wants to visit the Kremlin, to see the main citadel of our medieval culture and our famous cathedrals.
Our river ride lasts 2.5 hours. The route begins at the pier near the Ukraine Hotel. Then the yacht goes to the Novospassky Monastery and turns back. During the ride, you can enjoy about 20 of the city's landmarks. For example, you can see 4 out of the 7 legendary skyscrapers built in the Stalin era.
Our river ride started at the Ukraine Hotel. Then we passed by the building of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The tallest skyscraper is the Moscow State University on Vorobyovy Gory, or the Sparrow Hills. Now we are approaching the apartment block on Kotelnicheskaya embankment. It is still classed as elite housing. The price of the cheapest apartment starts at 50 million rubles. The building is open to visitors, even if they don't live there.
The Moskva River possesses many mysteries and secrets. It's still not clear how its name came to be. Some people believe that the root of the word once denoted either swamp or mud.
If we look at the ancient pictures, we'll see that in the 19th century, the banks were sandy and you could swim in the river. There was even a shallow place where you could cross on foot. But due to the shortage of drinking water, the authorities had to find a solution for connecting the Moskva River with the Volga. After that, it became quite deep, as you can see. I swam in it as a child, but it was cleaner back then.
Today, there are over 20 bridges that connect the two banks of the deep Moskva River. Some of them have become city landmarks.
In front of us is the Krymsky Bridge, or Crimea Bridge. It's perhaps one of the most beautiful bridges in Moscow. It's the only arch bridge in the city. It was built in the 1930s. In fact, it has very little to do with Crimea. One of the explanations of the name is that the Crimean Tatars used to come here when this place was a transit point. As you know, all kinds of nomads raided Moscow. Kazan, Astrakhan, and later Crimean Khans wanted to conquer us.
Of all the historical and popular attractions along the river route, of course, the tourists look forward to seeing the jewel in the Russian capital's crown, the Moscow Kremlin.
In front of us is the Moscow Kremlin. The fortress was built here in the 12th century. It was much smaller than now, and it stood at the junction of 2 rivers on Borovitsky Hill. As you can see, the cathedral and the buildings stand on the hill. It was a convenient location where people could see where the enemies were coming from. They could protect themselves. The Kremlin's area is very large, about 27 hectares. It has the shape of a scalene triangle. The Kremlin is surrounded by 20 towers.
In addition to regular cruises which operate every day according to a schedule, the Moskva River also offers tours devoted to specific topics, for instance, literary and gastronomic boat rides.
We have a joint partnership program with Jazz radio station. We used to have jazz cruises. We also have theater cruises, where full-fledged plays are performed for our guests. In fact, our guests participate in an interactive theater performance on the boat. They become the guests of a 19th century family. The performance is based on Chekhov's plays. It's very interesting. It's an opportunity to become acquainted with the culture of our country, its literature and architecture, because we pass by many buildings, including those that date back to the 19th century. We can even immerse ourselves in the culinary world and become familiar with the cuisine of the 19th century. In fact, it's a complete immersion in the old days.
It is planned that by 2021, tourist river cruises in the Russian capital will be supplemented by passenger water transport services. The pilot route will go along the Moskva River from the Kievsky train station to the Nizhny Manevniki district. There will be 7 stops along the route. None of them will be far from the metro stations, the Moscow Central Ring, and bus stops. The fare will be payable by your Troika card. That was a wonderful tour. Our guide Alexei has told me many interesting facts and stories. And also in our program today, I've learned that the Moscow River is 80% Volga water. And it's not just for drinking. Water in Moscow is used for tourism and for transport, and also helps make the city look beautiful. You've been watching the program Capital Ideas Life. I'm Mike Gibson. See you in a week.